Hi there. How you doing? My name is Charity Wambui Kavanaugh, and I am a life, dating, and love coach to high achieving single women over 40 and more so women of faith. So that goes any faith, doesn't really matter. So today I want to kind of continue a conversation that I've been having on what it means to be ready for your next relationship. So, as I've said before, readiness does not mean that it's not a feeling like I feel ready. It's not necessarily a decision that you make and say, okay, I am ready now. While that could be a part of it, being ready for a relationship means that you have prepared in advance on certain specific foundational I would say foundational pillars of what it means to be in a successful relationship. So one of the successful pillars that I want to talk about, I've talked about vision. What I want to talk about today is about being clear on relationship requirements or relationship requirements. Now, many coaches and many teachers teach this in different ways, right? So I'm going to give you my take based on my training, and what I've learned is very effective in helping clients be clear on what their requirements are. So requirements are non-negotiables, right? These are black and white things that we have to predefine, and I'll get into a little bit of what that means. So many of us think that relationship requirements is the traits of a partner. So you think, oh, I want someone who's kind, who's loving, who's patient, who's, name it, right? Or I want someone who's rich or who is financially independent, certain traits that you observe. However, it's possible to meet somebody with all the traits that you've listed down, and still your relationship requirements are not met. And to prove that that is the case, ask yourself, why is it so many people fall out of love or relationships break up or even get there are even divorces that happen? What happened when two people fell madly in love and they had this big, beautiful wedding or commitment ceremony, and then 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, it ends in a bitter divorce? This is because of relationship requirements. So relationship requirement is, I want you to think about you as an individual. So there's you as a woman, and then there's the guy, and then you come together into being a committed long-term relationship, and then you produce a relationship dynamic. That relationship dynamic is what you need to predefine and be clear on what that relationship dynamic is. And that is what is a requirement. I'm going to repeat that. You come together, you're a woman, and then there's a guy, and you're both individuals. So you have different qualities and different traits, and you come together in a committed relationship, which is the third entity, right? And that relationship dynamic has certain characteristics and attributes and behaviors and events. And that is what we describe as relationship requirements. So you want to predefine what this looks like. When I'm with this person, how is our relationship? How would you describe it? How would you measure certain attributes? And I'll give you a very practical example. A good one is, a lot of people will say, I want an addiction-free relationship. Okay. So what does that mean, right? So is it that you don't want somebody who drinks occasionally or drinks once a year or, can't do without alcohol, right? What about other forms of addiction? What about sugar addiction? What about, something that they could like that makes them, makes them unhealthy? So getting into those specifics, right? Like, what does an addiction-free relationship mean? And of course, a lot of these requirements are informed by our shared values, our preferences, our past relationship patterns, even our family of origins. All this there's, many variables and sources that help us to know what our relationship requirements are. So typically we all have about 8 to 12 relationship requirements, maybe even 6. And the thing is that if you are not conscious of what your relationship requirements are, by the way, whether you're conscious of them or not, you have them. Whether you're conscious of them or not, you have them. So it's best, if you are wanting to meet somebody, if you want to be in a successful relationship, it's important that you clearly articulate to yourself what your relationship requirements are, so that you can be looking out for this as you interact with the person. Now, this is a very broad paradigm that I take my clients through. It actually can take us like even a month to be very clear on what those relationship requirements. And this is the heart and soul of what I do as I coach my clients. The other thing I want to say is that they are non-negotiable. They're black and white, right? They're there or they're not there. And again, they should not to be confused as traits. Another example I could give is, let's say you want to have a relationship, like a man who shows up as a father, or who wants children, or like you desire to have kids, and you meet somebody that checks all your boxes, right? So, and you just say to yourself, you know what, maybe this is something that I can grow to live with. And then you get into the relationship and you realize that you cannot change this person's mind. That is another practical example. And there are many, many, many examples out there that you can think about. Maybe you think about your previous relationship. If you were married before, why did it not work out? What happened? What happened there? Or the guy you are dating last, what happened there? Therein are clues of relationship requirements. So I hope that this sort of helps you understand that there's so much more into choosing somebody and being ready for a relationship, and that's being clear on your relationship requirements. All right, that's all from me today. I would love your questions. If you have any questions about this, or if you want help try defining your relationship requirements, I will be glad to help you and coach you through that. Just reach out on the link below, and we can do a love audit strategy call, and I'll be able to help you. Otherwise, thanks for listening, and I will see you next time. Have a good week. Bye.